Good morning, my people. Early this morning. Well, people on the East Coast, good afternoon. It's after 12 o'clock here. There. You know, good afternoon, it's your boy. It's your man's, all the as your uncle, your brother, your daddy, your son, nephew, everybody. It's Bobby Hill. Nice to meet y'all this morning. Nice to meet y'all. Nice to for my new people that's coming in. Nice to meet you. For the people that's watching before, welcome back. I'd like to start out by, saying good morning to my lovely wife. She's at work right now. She's probably, I don't know if she's able to see me right now. Just say, good morning. Hope everything's going well. And I hope everything is going well for y'all like it today. I hope, your day started out good. I hope, you're one step closer to your goals. I hope things are going well with you. I'll looking through stuff this morning. I like thinking about my wife and stuff, thinking about how we seeing her being loyal to each other, and how great that feels, and how satisfying that feels. And then I read. I know I'm probably late about it, but still, whatever. Um, you hear about what happened between Clay Thompson and Megan Thee Stallion. You're a little disappointed because on the surface it seemed like they had a lot of potential. Like this was something that was going to be meaningful and have substance. So I don't know what transpired. You don't never know everything. You don't ever know anything. Sorry, double negatives. I'm sorry. You don't ever know anything about what's going on. You only know what they present to you. So I don't like to speculate, but they say Clay Thompson. The reports say Clay Thompson was unfaithful, and so I don't know the ins and outs of what happened or the circumstances, but I know that there's been a groundswell of support for Megan Thee Stallion. She has her fans. She has her little, I don't know what they call them. And she has her own hive. Like the Beehive or the Swifties. I don't know what they call the Stallionettes. I don't know what's going on, but they rally behind her. But the thing is, the way they're rallying behind her is very irresponsible and very ignorant. I'm just being real with it. It's ignorant. You know, saying they're calling for a day where they cheat on their significant other. And they say whether boyfriend, husband, or whatever, they're gonna cheat. It's because another woman was cheated on. So that is probably the most stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. And if they do that, it just oh my god, that would just be so just let's play it out. You know, when let's say it's a woman. Let's say she has a kid. Let's say she has a kid and a man. Yeah, how's she gonna explain to you? Is she gonna explain fully what happened when that child asks, "Hey, why did they leave all of a sudden?" Are you gonna tell them what happened? That you was, falling, you cheated on him because he didn't do nothing wrong, but you cheated on him because a woman you've never met before got cheated on. Are you really gonna tell them that? Are you gonna come up with some more BS to say like the whatever, daddy this, daddy won't shit or whatever? You know what I'm saying? That's and I think, dealing with people like this, I think it's not her responsibility, but I think it would be good for Megan Stein to say something to people, man. Don't let them sit up and do shit and stuff like that, man. Especially in her name, because that's gonna bring all come back to her. These people following her and her pain and stuff like that, and doing idiotic stuff like that, man. So I hope they don't. I hope this don't happen. I really hope they don't. It just that's that would not be a good thing. I don't want no. It's bad enough that whatever happened in their relationship, man. Don't let that multiply because y'all in your feelings. You trying to be in this. You're going to be in a clique and want to think you stand for a cause. There are a lot of causes out here to stand for. That should not be one of them. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. No. excuse me. I just wanted to say that because we have a this country is bit like I said, I talk about country all the time, and it's very complicated. Good things, bad things, terrible things. But one thing that this country like really focuses on is family. Family, the nuclear family and stuff. So I think that's why I would feel like they'll be irresponsible for people to do that, man, trying to break up families and stuff. And it shouldn't. They should. Hope we don't, teach our children, teach our kids to do stuff like that, man. Because it's just setting us up for this, setting this world up to go down. Because you just, have no morals or have no values and stuff. Just yes, it was bad what happened to her. It was bad that what happened. And be there. Support her, give her comfort. Give her good words, healing words, whatever. But don't do that. Don't you don't you don't you know. You don't try to get revenge from one bad action by doing another bad action. That ain't gonna say two wrongs don't make a right. That's right. Don't need to be out here doing this. So I hope they don't. I hope clear minds prevail, and I hope that this don't manifest itself into something. I really hope it don't. Then I still to flip the page, I still is still baffled by, this what's going on up here at Washington D.C. Man, this administration. You had this acting attorney general, what's his name, Todd Blanche. He up here just trying to audition for the attorney general role. 'cause, Trump don't like he don't like going through the Senate. He likes having all the power. He likes being able to say you're fired and now you're hired. That's why he did it. He found out he could do it in his last, in his first term. He found something he could do. You don't have to have him Senate confirmed. He can just name him acting, acting attorney general, acting secretary of state, acting he can do that to bypass it. So, and also when he does that, that means he can fire whenever. And he can always fire whenever he wants. He can just fire him, plug another one in, plug another one in. And that's what he's doing. So you got these people over trying to, basically it's auditioning for him, trying to, and that's why they're doing this outrageous stuff. And they know that he has for Trump, feel his way about Comey. So they doing this, trying to make him happy. But this is some of the stupidest stuff. I mean, you're gonna prosecute a man for something that's not just crazy, man. It's crazy. We done, us is hearing about black people, us in the justice system. We done experience malicious prosecution or false prosecution, or get prosecuted, get convicted years later, exonerated, stuff like that. So yeah, it's just a continuation, man. All this man up here, using the wheels of justice and using this country as his own personal vendetta, his own personal money bank, and just and people just allow him to do that. It's just baffling, man. He's sitting here doing it in plain sight. He's not hiding about it. He's not hiding. He's trying to hide a little bit, but they try to they want to control the media. They're trying to control all information that comes out because they don't want you to know everything bad. They're trying to paint a picture that he's this sort of great leader, and he's not. He's pathetic. But they trying to, control the message. That's why that's why he, got these people in the FCC and loyalists there so they can force these companies to, as I say, force these companies to bend the knee down. And that's this whole situation here with Jimmy Kimmel. Like, they can't take a joke. They simply talk about everybody else, and Trump can call people low IQ, low intelligence and all this stuff, and call them piece of shit and call everything, but as soon as somebody says something to him, he wants them fired for the First Amendment. This is First Amendment freedom, freedom of speech. So what they're trying to do is get these people in here in the FCC that are, try to bend to his will, but it would never happen because everything can get, that's, we can't do that because, they can go to court, everything get caught up in court, and that's a constitutional situation, which they will lose that case. But it's not about the fact that it ain't about winning the case. It's about causing a damn stir, making headlines, staying in the headlines. That's all Trump cares about, staying in the headlines, being relevant. You know, trying to stay relevant. That's why he still got his hair the way it is, trying to stay relevant. You know, that's why he's trying to up here tanning, trying to stay relevant. Because he look like an old bald headed, pale ass, fat, got big ankles, got dark spots. He ain't got all that stuff. Trying to hide all that, man. He's just trying to portray this image that he's not. But we've done seen this before. We've seen people like him before. I don't tell people that he's 6'2", 230 pounds. That man probably about 300 pounds easily. Easily. But yeah, it just, then you got the people like, you got Marco Rubio. He's up, he's I mean, most of the stuff Trump say is BS. But when he said little Marco, that was right on point. Two things he said that were absolutely the truth were little Marco and lying Ted Cruz. Those are two truths. I'll give him credit for that. Yes. Both of them. Both of them. Not both of them. Both of them. BOFFUM. Both of them. This. But like I said, what we can do then, I seen another thing that they tripping, is funny is all of a sudden they feel like a need for a presidential ballroom. That's the biggest waste of money. Like, what do they need a ballroom for? What do they need a ballroom for? Huh? The reason why you want a ballroom because he wants to look like a king. See what I'm saying? He wants people like stuff like the correspondence dinner. He wanted to be like almost like an invitation. It's already invitation only, but he wants to select a few people there that will sit up there and praise him and hold him up, just like sort of like that first cabinet meeting when he was in his first term, where all the people were sitting here saying it's an honor to serve for you, Mr. President, and he just sitting there, looked like he had an erection, listen to them talk about him and stuff, and just that's what he on. It's an ego trip, So he has Lindsey Graham, man. He just, oh my God, that's no one I sort of, put on the side of, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, Lindsey Graham. Ever since John McCain died, Lindsey Graham been an idiot. He's been an idiot. He sat here. Trump sat up here and put his phone number out here, set it out here on camera and stuff. And, just basically talk so much shit about Lindsey Graham, and he's sitting right up here like he's sitting here like on Game of Thrones when it was Ramsay and my man, he started calling himself Reek. That's Lindsey Graham. His name is Reek. That's him. I'm Reek. That's him. But yeah, and he's the one, I seen him on camera asking, saying he's going to introduce a bill asking, to fund the construction of that ballroom. So so the government, so the Senate, they can take food stamps away from people. They can take, health care away from people. They can do nothing about the rising gas. They can do nothing about the rising food, the rising, cost of living, house, getting a house, everything. They can't do nothing about that. But they asking the American people to pay for a ballroom that you would never in your life get a chance to go to. That's what they're doing. And they think the American people are like stupid enough to be like, okay, this is our ballroom. This ain't the president's ballroom. This is the people's ballroom. Yeah, all right. See how many other people be up in there if they ever construct it. For real. Saying, man, don't, these people, man, don't let them fool you, man. Don't let them, like, you got Trump sitting up here, he bitten off more than he can chew, man. He out here thinking that, you know, he think he think this is the reality show where, think people gonna follow a script, think that he gonna sit up here and wave his muscle and stuff and use the military, just have the military out here just doing stuff, trying to bully people. Him and Pete Head, what's his name, Hegseth, just out here just thinking they can bully people and just think people gonna lay down and stuff like this is not the 70s, 80s. No, man, no. People, they tired of that. They tired of getting bullied, man. You deal kids deal with bullies in school, they deal with bullies, but it's gonna be that one day the kid is getting bullied, gonna wake up and be like, gonna look in the mirror and be like, the day is now, not the day. You say something to me, it's on and pop. And that's what, the country, man, they're not sitting up there, especially someone like Trump, who has no compassion, he has no elegance. He has no grace about him. He has nothing. He can't talk. He don't even have like, I don't care. He been out here in social media, been out here publicly, social, all that. He has terrible social skills. He don't know how to talk to people. He talks down to people like he's better than people, and he's not. He's an idiot. The only thing is he just happened to have a father, that made a lot of money, and he inherited it. So I don't give me this intelligence, great leader stuff. No, you just a lucky man. People don't say that like saying this word, but I don't give a damn. This is what it is. Donald Trump is the poster child of white privilege. Period. Period. He wasn't even the smartest family member. His brother, the one that died, was the one. He was the prodigy. He was the one that was well equipped to take on their family business. But Trump found a way to weasel his way to get it, take it from him. Okay, and first of all, you sit up here, you went to Wharton Business School. You didn't have the grades. You got there because you had money. You got there. You wasn't even that good in school. You weren't that good of a student. Then Vietnam came and you got your way out of it. With bone spurs. Because you had money. You have money and you were white and you was in the United States. And that's a fact. That's not like I'm not saying like criticizing a whole race or nothing. But we know what's going on. This is stuff that's been happening in this country. This is facts. Sometimes you got to look in the mirror and stuff. Us as black folks, we done things we do things to ourselves. We do things out here in the streets that we ain't proud of, and we look ourselves in the mirror, but we own it. That's what, sometimes, white people got to own some of the stuff that you got to own. No, you don't own the stuff that you did. It's just a fact. It's not opinion, But yes, he was able to, get out of going fighting in the military. Then he went, like I said, he inherited all this money, so he was given leeway. He was up here in New York, was able to, went bankrupt. He was able to build casinos and stuff like that and ended up losing money, going bankrupt. He was real, like a con man, basically just a con man, up there lying, telling people that he was. One of the first things I heard about Donald Trump in the news was he was lying about how much he was worth. This was back in the 80s, and then he's been doing that lying about how much he was worth. So, like I said, he hasn't the opportunities he's been given with the amount of failures that he's had. Only because that's what it is. a black person in Donald Trump's position would only been given one time to do that. If you would have failed and went bankrupt, you wouldn't have been given all the opportunity to come back up and, do what he's doing and stuff like that. Nah. So yes, that's the way I feel. And that's for as far as that, the white privilege, that's just my feeling. That ain't fact. That's just my feeling right there. I give you that. But all the other stuff about how he came up, those are facts. So that's what we deal with, man. And these people here, in the government who has always, tried to be sort of, no, I don't even know. I think they try to be sort of independent to, the president, whatever, and do their own thing. But now like I said, the Republicans in Congress they are just, what do you call it, kowtow, or however they said, they hitched to the Trump wagon. They would not get off of anything. They support all this stuff. But so back, it was so weak about them. They support it publicly, but all of them talk shit about it privately. Make it make sense. Because they're scared of getting primary, because they're scared of losing their job, because it's all about, earning that paycheck. Not doing anything significant for the people. It's about earning that government paycheck. That's all they want. Get them, get that money from them, getting them money from them lobbyists. That's what they want. Corporation money. People fund their campaigns and stuff. That's what they want. That's all they're in it for. They don't care about the common people. They don't care until it's election time, and then it's we the people. As soon as they get elected, it's me, the congressman. Who cares about we the people? And that's what it is. And that's all of them. This ain't no party. That's all of them. As soon as they get in that office, man, they're not all of them 100%. You have some that, you have a few that's, out here for the people, out here just trying to, genuinely care about people. And people, and it's been, they've been ridiculed. They've been whatever, people talk about, there's a couple young ladies. Who was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I like her. She's good. She speaks her mind. She's not scared. She don't hold back because of, don't be scared what these people say. These people talk jump back. Like Jasmine Crockett. It was unfortunate that she didn't win that primary. I was rooting for her, voted for her. So hope she was in the primary, but it happens. Things happen. And I like, Ilhan Omar. I like her too. They speak their mind. I like it. Hakeem Jeffries. I like him. I'm trying to, I be trying to find Republicans to like. I try hard. But it's hard now because they just, all of them being locked up with Donald Trump, and they don't make sense sometimes. They don't. When they do here's the thing, when they do like grow a spine, or when they do like step up and say something, they on their way out. That's the only time they do it. That's why, Tom Tillis, man, what was all this stuff when you was in office, man? You was quick to talk shit about Barack Obama and stuff, and then when Trump started doing, you said it and then retired. It look like that's weak. I think that's weak. Whenever the Congress people do that, I think that's weak. You talk junk, then you're gonna retire. That's weak. I tell you who I do like. I like Republicans. Some commentators I like. But the one I like most, I like him more because he's real with it. He's the realest one out. That's Michael Steele. I like Michael Steele. At first I didn't. At first they said I didn't like him, but I felt like the Republican Party used Michael Steele at first. But he did have a great accomplishment because under his reign, the Republican gained a whole lot of seats. It was during the time Barack Obama's first first term and the midterm, the 2010. Like he said, he took like Barack Obama said he took a shellacking, but Michael Steele was the head of the Republican Party then. And they just from that and the anger that the section of the country had because they had a darker shade of president. That combination was and Democrats being scared to say something was the reason why they had that big loss. But Michael Steele was, the head of the Republican Party. I always felt like Republicans used him as an answer to Barack Obama because they didn't want a white man up there talking junk about Barack Obama like that because they didn't want to appear racist. So what they did, they put a black man up there to talk junk about Barack Obama. So it looked like black on black. And it was. But after that, after he resigned and stuff, he came on television and stuff. And he, like I say, he was hard standing. He was holding it, but he was smart with it, man. He wasn't out here talking like some of these people on Fox News, man. He was talking like he got some sense. Did I agree with everything he said? No. But he didn't make me feel like, oh my God, this guy don't know what he's talking about. He knew what he was talking. He was very, talked very well. He explained himself very well, explained his position. Even though I disagree with it, but yeah, he's just a straight talker. And I like how he hates this president, man. It's nothing to do with like he hates him, how the stupid stuff he does, man. It ain't about a party affiliation, man. It's about certain standards that we have growing up, certain standards that we look toward as a president that he doesn't have. He doesn't appear like. If we ever have a moment where there's a tragedy or he's not the leader that can lead us back into the light. I think he will plunge us more into darkness. That's why I think Donald Trump will. He is not a person like, for instance, if Donald Trump had been president during 9/11, he wouldn't have dared got up there in the middle of the damn Yankee Stadium and threw a ball down there at a glove. He wouldn't have dared. To him, he wouldn't have lowered himself to do that, even though that was probably one of the greatest presidential moments in the history of this country. Just that moment, him throwing that ball and throwing a strike, a change-up strike. George W. Bush, that right there. I gave him an A+ on that moment. He nailed that. That was the image that America needs to see to heal, to start healing. And Trump could never do anything like that. He could never bring himself to, be that elegant or be that graceful or be that compassionate. He will not do that. He's not going to do that. So that's the problem. That's the issue that we have, and God forbid, knock on wood, that we haven't experienced nothing like that, And I'm pretty sure there are people out there looking at us right now and be like, Lord, what in the world, man? What's going on with this man up here? And how they act as administration, how they try to hide everything. Like I said, it makes you wonder. That's what brings into question about the events that happen. Why people question it, why conspiracy theories, gain traction over the way they act. Talking about the law enforcement performed. No, they didn't. How could somebody if law enforcement performed so great, how was he able to get in there? Period. That's like somebody going through TSA and getting to the lobby where all the places where the people sit at, getting past TSA and being able to shoot a shot off, and then they tackle him and they be like, yeah, they performed admirably. No, they didn't. You know why? Why did he get past that? How was he able to get past that? How were that man with a weapon, able to get past there? Secret Service job. We seen Secret Service. They do their thing. What's going on? That's what I'm saying. There's too many questions, and they don't give answers. They don't want to give answers. You got an FBI director looking like he's drunk and cockeyed and it's an idiot, man. You see people up here, they got idiots up here, man. With Trump telling people he hired the best people. No, he don't. He hired the dumbest people. The reason why he hired people so dumb, so he won't look as dumb. He'll look like a genius compared to some of these people. So This is what we dealing with. As the Mandarin said in the movie Iron Man 3, America. that's us. You know, that is us. You know, like I said, but hopefully, we as a people, not as black people, as everybody in this country, as United States citizens of the United States of America, citizens, people who would like to be citizens, people on visas, residences and residents of United States, and everybody wishing to be in the United States or whatever. We can, stay together. Don't let, these people, don't let all this hate and stuff, prevail. And we got the, we got a voice. We got a voice. We got, power. We got to, let our voice be heard. Stop, don't worry until, we still got the First Amendment. We still can, freedom of speech. Don't let we can't let, hate win. We can't let tyranny win. We can't let all this stuff win, man. We can't, can't sit back and let, all your things get taken away and they telling you everything's okay. When you sit up here, you go in these damn grocery stores, you go through the aisles and see the price on these aisles go up every damn day, and these people on television telling you that everything is okay. Come on, man. Y'all ain't stupid. Come on, you see with your eyes. Don't listen to them, man. They full of game. Go to that gas pump, that number every morning you wake up and ride by a gas pump, that price go up every day. But steady, you hearing on television, oh, everything's okay, everything's fun, everything. Nah, man, come on now. We've been through too much as a country to sit up there and fall victim to an idiot and an idiot administration. And hopefully it'll be, in the midterms, the people will begin to let them know, like, look, we done. We ain't going out here. You had your little fun and everything, and yes, you done did some damage, and it's gonna take a minute to get it back right. But yeah, we still we the people, not me to Trump. It's we the people. So hopefully, things could, get, back to. Not back to. We don't want to go back to like where we at. Hopefully, be able to get, move forward, and make our government more responsible, make our government more for the people and not for corporations and rich people and stuff like that, man. Make the government work for the people, and hopefully we can, get up out of this, without too much damage and heal and move forward. One can only hope. With that being said, I hope y'all have a nice day. Cause I have to, get out here. Like I said, I just wanted to stop in, talk to y'all. Like I said, I do this Monday through Friday. I'm gonna be here for y'all. I'm gonna commit. When I'm committed, that's what I'm here to commit to do. Helping everybody out, helping out who I can help. Being, just. Being able to, like I said, express myself, and hopefully, something I've gone through or something I've overcome, hopefully that can help you, give you answers. Will it be the total answer? No, but it might give you a guide. It might give you an idea. It might spark an idea of like, hey, I never thought of that. Let me try this. So, that's all I'm trying to do, man. That's all I'm trying to do, and I'm glad that, the people who decided to let me come into your brain and let me infiltrate your brain with some knowledge, those who allowed me to come in there, thank you. And hopefully you'll let me come back. And I hope people that's, want to come in, like tell your friends, tell everybody, tell whoever, tell them all, tell them to come on. We can talk. We got a live chat up here. If you want to chat, I'm on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok. We can just, send me a message. Send me a message or send me I post it on Facebook every day when when I go live. So, any ideas or anything, let me know. Let me know. I'm listening. Listen to anybody, man. I'll listen to everybody. I will, like I said, I try to, be fair. If I see, people I know, people I see, I know going through stuff, I try to, bring it to the attention. Like I said, I try to help as much as I can, So that being said, I hope y'all have a great day. I could come check me out tomorrow. I'll be here tomorrow. I don't know, sometime in the afternoon. Sometimes I get a chance to do it in the morning, but most time be in the afternoon. So check me out tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow. We can do this again. You know, as I always say before, kiss your kids, kiss your loved ones, because you never know. It might be the last time. And y'all have a good afternoon. And I'll see y'all later.